What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my YouTube channel where we discuss all things FPL and we discuss my Gameweek 32 wildcard strategy and my wildcard draft. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So there is going to be a likely double game week 33 and a blank double game week 34 depending on the FA Cup fixture results. So the FPL experts all predict that if the likely results come out of the FA Cup where Arsenal beat Southampton, Chelsea beat Port Vale, and potentially if Man City beat Liverpool, they will all have doubles, and their respective teams that they will be playing in game week 34 will also have doubles, but they will also have a blank 34. So therefore your fixture strategy needs to focus on your current transfers to be those who double in 33, and potentially if you've still got a free hit left, then to either free hit in 33 or to use your free hit for 34, because those that double in 33 will have a blank in game week 34. West Ham and Leeds also play, but the FPL's fixture experts all predict that West Ham and Leeds will still stay in blank game week 34, so therefore their fixtures won't actually change. So in game week 34, actually, where Arsenal play Newcastle, they would actually that will blank and that will be moved into 33. Therefore Arsenal will have a double where they play Man City away and they play Newcastle at home, but that also means Newcastle will have a double where they will play Bournemouth at home and then they will play Arsenal away. Where Chelsea beat Port Vale, they will play United at home and then they will have Brighton away, but that also means Brighton will have a double and they will have Spurs away and they will then play Chelsea at home, all in 33. If Man City win, they will have Arsenal at home, but then they also play Burnley away. And if Man City win, then Burnley also have a double, and they will go away to Forest, but then home to Man City, all in 33, and then they will all blank in 34. Where Liverpool win, they and Crystal Palace will then have a double in 33, and they will blank in 34. Either way, there's going to be a bunch of teams doubling in 33, and there's going to be those same teams will blank in 34. Therefore, it's ideal to have a chip and also to use a chip in either 33 or 34. So where Liverpool win, they will have Palace at home, but they will also have Everton away. Therefore, Liverpool doubling and Palace doubling. So if you don't have a wild card anymore, then you should try and focus your strategy where you can, if you have enough transfers to then re-hit 33, have a good team for 32, have a good team for 34, and then outside on the back of it, bench boost and potentially 36 where there's also another potential double, and that potential double could be Man City and Palace, because that fixture still needs to be rearranged. I think transfers now should be focusing towards Arsenal, whether you get 2 or 3 from Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, Brighton, City and Burnley, and potentially if Liverpool win, then it could be Liverpool and Palace, but then that means Man City will have a single in game week 33 and a single in game week 34. Where Arsenal beat Southampton and they double in game week 33, then with their double fixture being City away and Newcastle, ideally you want to focus on triple Arsenal. You're looking at Raya, Gabriel, you're looking at Timber, or you're looking at Rice. Ideally 3 out of the 4. Saka, Gyökeres, they're all sort of outside punts. However, with minutes and everything can be quite uncertain with them. The safest options will be Raya, Gabriel, and Rice or Timber. For Newcastle, again, it's trying to sort of load up on their assets like Gordon. I think Gordon's a lock-in. And then you've got potentially Sotiao or Hall. And with Chelsea, you've got Palmer, João Pedro, Enzo. Wouldn't go near the defence, to be fair. But if you wanted to, then you've still got Sanchez as well and Chalobah. Or Brighton, for those going for game week 32 wildcard, Brighton is probably your biggest upside. So there you have Van Heck, you have Verbruggen, you have Danny Welbeck. We've also got Pascal Gross, potentially Diego Gomez. So there are a few cheap options that can work towards your bench boost in game week 33. City, again, that's probably the biggest upside where a lot of people would have sort of now removed their Man City for the blank game week 31 and now sort of would want their Man City back. So your Haalands, your Semenyos, your Nico O'Reilly's, who's on a hot form at the moment. Even potentially, I think Mateus Nunes is a decent sort of outside punt as well. And Gahey, who is quite popular at the moment. Burnley, the less said the better. But with Burnley, again, you have still got Dubravka, who everyone will have as a second keeper. Potentially Fleming up front, if, you know, as a cheap option, if you can't afford anybody else. But to be fair, that's as far as I would go for them. If Liverpool beat Man City, that's going to be maximum chaos, and that's going to be 100% where a lot of people that have their wildcard left will just hit their wildcard button in game week 32. In that scenario, you can triple up on Liverpool, you can triple up on Palace, who currently Palace, nobody, or minimum, there'll be minimum Palace players on at the moment, especially with them blanking in 31. So it'll be a good opportunity to jump on the likes of Munoz, to jump on the likes of Richards, jump on the likes of Sarr, or Henderson will be your best bets with Palace. Liverpool, you've got Salah for one last one song. You've also got Wirtz, Ekitike, Szoboszlai, Van Dijk. So yeah, it all depends in which scenario they go down. So now let's move on to sort of potential popular strategies and looking into sort of my current wildcard draft and what potential options I have. So the two current popular chip strategies are wildcard 32, bench boost 33 and free hit 34, which is probably the route that I'm likely to go down. However, the other popular chip strategy, which I would recommend if you have a couple of free transfers and you can get out a pretty good team in 32 and potentially a decent team in 34 if the blanks fall as they're expected to, then the free hit 33, wildcard 35, bench boost 36 strategy still works. However, if you do have your triple captain still to play, which is what I have, which is then why I'm leaning towards wildcard 32, because then I can use my triple captain in 36. However, if you're bench boosting in 36 with the second strategy, then you gotta look to play your triple captain in a single game week window. The triple captain is probably gonna be like your lowest upside one, where you're looking like the lowest haul. So therefore, it's worth sort of not prioritizing that. Where your free hit, your wildcard, your bench boost certainly needs to be prioritized over them. Yeah. So like I said, if you can get a pretty decent team out for game week 34, where you can get a good set of 11 out, then yeah, I would definitely recommend the free hit 33 strategy, where you are able to get a good team out for 32, good team out for 34, and then to free hit in 33, wildcard 35 and set yourself up for the last 4 game weeks. So let's move on to my current Game Week 32 wildcard draft. I think it's worth mentioning that this is very much budget dependent, and my team value right now is very, very low, which is why there are certain picks that I have had. So the common sort of popular template draft would have Ryan, Dubravka in goal, would have Gabriel, Thiaw or Hall, and then Van Heck, O'Reilly, and then the fourth will be a cheap one like a Rodon or a Estev, or depending on who you can afford. If you can afford someone a bit more expensive, then you can go for a second Newcastle defender, or even potentially a second Brighton, for example. However, you know, the options in goal, you've got Raya over Bruggen. The reason why I prefer Raya is because then you're doubling up on their defence, whereas if you go over Bruggen, then you're going to be doubling up in defence for Arsenal, and it also then means that you're always going to have to bench one if you've also got Van Heck and O'Reilly. You know, in certain scenarios, especially when you've got a good, strong front 8, and then you want to only play 3 defenders, you're having to bench a good defender every time if you're playing Verbruggen. But also, like this week in game week 32, Verbruggen is away to Burnley, so there's going to be a lot of bench points. In terms of defence, the reason why I've gone Timber/Saliba is because I couldn't necessarily afford Rice in midfield if I wanted the rest. If I wanted Bruno, Semenyo, Gordon, and my plan in 33 is to move Bruno Fernandes to Palmer, and if I want to move to Cole Palmer, then I can't afford Rice in midfield. Therefore, what I've currently decided is to go with Gordon, Anderson, Semenyo, Gross and Bruno. Anderson plays Burnley in game week 33 bench boost. Rodon plays Wolves in game week 33 bench boost. So therefore they have good fixtures. But if you wanted to go all out doubles, you could also go with Estev And in midfield, you've got, again, his sort of picks itself. Semenyo, Bruno pick themselves as well. Bruno will then become Palmer for his game week 33. 34 will be a free hit, and in 35, Palmer goes home to Forest as well. So therefore, that's another good fixture. Gross is just there for the double and for the bench boost, effectively. And then up front, I've got João Pedro, who should fairly technically be a lock in all wildcards, because obviously with their double coming up, Haaland again, if they double, then he should be a lock as well, unless you want to go pretty differential. And I've got Fleming there, who can also be Welbeck. Due to budgetary and funds reasons, I've gone with Fleming. However, also with Welbeck, I don't think he'll probably start both in 34. I think he'll just start one of the games in 34. Therefore, Fleming is a bit more of a safer option. He does have a decent fixture over the next few, and then after that, he'll just be benched anyway. So I think in that scenario, you've got Timber, who could also be a Newcastle defender. You've got Anderson, who could be Rice. You've got Fleming, who could be Welbeck, and that will be your common, most popular draft. If you want to be differential, you could also look at Verbruggen within the goalkeepers. You've also got other Newcastle defenders. You're technically, you could also go 15 doublers if you want. In this draft, I have 2 non-doublers. However, Anderson home to Burnley, you're looking at DEFCON, you're looking at potential clean sheet points, and if he nicks an assist or a goal, you've got a good strong haul there. And you've got Rodon as well, who could potentially do something at home to Wolves. Otherwise, that can also be Stevel, that can also be another doubler if you can afford a Newcastle defender, for example. Yeah, so that's my current strategy. Let me know your thoughts, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.